great that Claude and 4.0 and Gemini are trained on multiple languages. So like English, German, French, whatever. It's trained on programming languages. It's trained on everything on the internet. But if I'm building a chatbot for like a restaurant, do I care about Python? Do I care about databases? Do I care about German? Like, no. That
Okay.
doesn't.
Welcome to Practical AI, everybody. My name is Jeff. I'm with Peter Lynn. We are in our second season of the Practical AI series, and we are sponsored by Pocket AI. Pocket AI is a tool used to perform surgery on your models to make them better. While everyone today is talking about RAG and refinement, Pocket AI allows you to edit the weights of your model directly. Peter, I was just going to share my screen here quickly. It's about 45 seconds in a video that we've been talking about this week. And I'll just play it and then we can talk about it. So here it is. This is from Steve from Builder.io. Here we go.
So that you as a user don't have to do it manually. In general, when building with AI, remember one really key thing. As much as possible, do not use AI. AI is expensive, unpredictable, slow, and overall likely to give your customers a lot of headaches when things don't consistently work as expected. Try to break down your problems and solve as many as possible without AI. Yes, the LLMs are the coolest, newest technology, but that doesn't mean that's what you should reach for everything. Use typical coding for more fast, scalable, deterministic, high confidence areas. And in our case, we frequently train our own small models for specific specialized tasks that can be better, faster, cheaper, and more reliable, and combine those up into a larger solution. We use LLMs as little as possible, and when combining all techniques, traditional code, small self-trained models, and occasional large language models, you'll likely find a more robust, reliable, and scalable approach. And don't forget to get user feedback along the way. Nobody's going to care about your cool AI thing if it doesn't solve real problems the way people need them to.
Okay. So use LLMs as little as possible. That's quite a disturbing claim or statement, considering all the rave about LLMs. So where's he going? What's he getting at there?
Well, so this is a common thing that people are starting to see now. People that are using Copilot, people are using OpenAI, and that's you get your data together, you upload it to Azure or OpenAI, and you find the model, and you pay the money, they refine it for you, and you go to use it, and you find out like, oh, actually, this doesn't actually do what I claim it does, or what I want it to do, or it kind of does it, but then it's easy for customers to jailbreak. Like, was it last month or 2 months back? Somebody hacked, was it Ford or GM's chatbot and said, "Hey, um, I'm looking for a truck, and I only want to pay $1."
Oh, the dollar car thing. Yeah, that was good.
And that was hilarious, right? Because this goes back to use smaller models, because as awesome as GPT 4.0 is, it's over 1 trillion parameters at this point. And the attack vectors, meaning like the ways that a person could attack it, is just basically infinite. And you can't know how to protect yourself. It's just
So,
not possible.
so there's a number of things that he kind of mentioned. He essentially talks about, use classic programming code when you should. It's
Yep.
faster. Use smaller models and use big models as little as possible. So, kind of taking, stepping away from like the hybrid solutions, right?
Yep.
In terms of code and rule engines and decision trees and all the other things you can do. Um, just in terms of LLMs alone, when you consider that there's buckets of risks or there's buckets of issues, right? Um, you were kind of just mentioning now that it may not do what you want it to do.
Yep.
You also have so it's could be jailbroken into, right? So now it's like, causing problems because you're selling cars for $1.
Yep.
It might hallucinate, right? Could go just wacko and start doing weird stuff. But also in the training process, there's risks in the training as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, because if you put data in that has either privacy or regulation sensitive stuff, like for example, if you've got MRIs and X-rays, well, you're not really supposed to use that because it'll memorize the data. And according to HIPAA rules, which is the healthcare privacy rules, you're not supposed to just share any old patient's medical data with anything. Like you're supposed to keep that under lock and key. And in the past, when we've worked on healthcare projects, usually they don't give me access to anything that's sensitive. They're like, well, okay, what access do you need? And I'll say, I need access to these databases. And like, okay, that's all you get. And if they want anything else, I have to go and ask.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
they'll ask me like, do you absolutely need it? Because if you don't, you're not gonna get it.
I can't tell you how many millions of dollars have been spent on IT projects I've been involved in where they were just working on masking and de-identifying and all the things
Yeah.
that you need to do in order to give people access. Okay, so that's a good one, right? The privacy component. And if you are if you're training models with sort of sensitive data, you're going to produce probably better. Put it this way, if you have access to more data, including sensitive data, you should be able to produce better results, right? And
In theory.
so I'm getting the sense that maybe the dirty little secret out there is that Microsoft and Anthropic and all they have essentially gone as big and broad as they can,
Yep.
probably breaking some of the privacy and don't touch this data rules. And they're going to ask for forgiveness later. Is that a fair guess?
That's the dirty secret in machine learning today is they need, I mean, we've already reached a point where we need more data. So that's already well known because Meta with Llama 3 had to generate synthetic data to get better results. OpenAI has been creating their own data for the reinforcement learning with human feedback, right? So we've already reached the point where we need more data. So it's not like a thing in the future. We're already in it. So that means like, okay, clearly we've hit this threshold. And now the question is, how do you reliably generate data, more data or better data to get better results? And that's not really solved. Like some people think Q-star and Strawberry is the new synthetic data approach that, I mean, it looks promising, but that ties into the whole model collapse thing with synthetic data, is that if the synthetic data is too narrow, it will lead to the model collapsing. We've known that.
Okay, so now we switch over to the kind of the other half of that, and that is if you're going to solution things correctly, it's probably not all big LLMs all the time or big models all the time. It's probably a hybrid. And so this is sort of the practical approach. And obviously we could do sessions and sessions on like use cases of where, we could over club it on modeling, on AI and stuff like that. But in general, you and I have talked a lot about in all the series of things you do, once you get to the point where you have an AI that you want to use, a model you want to build, these mega models are just way too big and they're a lot oftentimes totally unnecessary. Tell us a little bit about how you approach the AI space in terms of trying to think of things and making stuff smaller from a model perspective.
Well, the first thing is we have to understand what our use case is and start from there because it's great that Claude and 4o and Gemini are trained on multiple languages. So like English, German, French, whatever. It's trained on programming languages, it's trained on everything on the internet. But if I'm building a chatbot for like a restaurant, do I care about Python? Do I care about databases? Do I care about German? Like, no. That
Okay.
doesn't.
So essentially, just in that example, there's a whole chunk of this monolith of a model that is super irrelevant to what you're trying to accomplish. And so what's the cost of that? Either actual cost or processing cost or risk cost or whatever. Maybe the counter argument could be, so what? It still works fine, Peter. It still make your menu for you or whatever. But
right?
what's the actual cost to
So the
the,
actual cost is this, is you got to pay Microsoft or Google or someone processing time with a nice beefy A100 or A200 GPU. So let's take the example of Llama 3, 8 billion. When you load it into memory, if you don't quantize it from 16-bit down to 4-bit, you'll need at least 20 gigs of memory at minimum. So that's the smallest Llama 3. If you use the 7 dB, well, now you need at least 100 gigs of memory. And so if you just do the math, if you have to support 10,000 concurrent users using your chatbot, that means you need 10,000 GPUs to handle 10,000 concurrent processes.
okay. There's also if you went small models that were very targeted, you also get some uplift too in terms of hallucination and jailbreaking, right? You could theoretically kind of lock that thing down a little bit more, right? Because it's not going to get into other avenues of information that is totally irrelevant to your business.
Right. Actually, I saw someone describe this a better way a few weeks back. And the phrase was LLMs, it's all hallucinations. The difference is whether or not the hallucination is what you expected.
That's a
So
great way to put it.
we call the ones we don't like hallucinations, but it's all hallucinations.
No, that's because ultimately what the LLM is doing is it's just finishing sentences, right?
Just making stuff up. Yep.
Yeah, it's just finishing a sentence, and so some of them are accurate and some of them are complete hallucinations, but they're all the same. They all are produced from the same data set.
Yep. And so it's just the human bias. When it matches expectations, we think it's intelligent. And then when it doesn't, we call it hallucination. But it's the same thing.
I love that. That's actually really good. That's a good way to look at it. Well, this is a fun thing. I think obviously you and I have kind of grown up in the sort of Gen X world where pragmatism is kind of, heralded. And so it makes sense to me that we would be overclubbing it a lot with
Yeah.
these LLM solutions or big model solutions. So intuitive to me, yeah, be pragmatic, use it when necessary, like you said, understand the use case, and then manage the trade-offs,
Yep.
and then hopefully go small, get smaller in your models.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like right now it's cheap, relatively speaking, because it's being subsidized by Microsoft or Google, whatever. But if we look at so Microsoft just but this year they launched their latest data center, but they're already building another one. Right. So that first one that they launched this year was 10 billion for that new AI data center. They're building a new
Dollars.
one already, and they're thinking it's going to be $100 billion for this next one.
Well,
And NVIDIA just had their quarterly uh, meeting this week, right? And I think they said they sold this year they'll have sold a 500,000 H100 video cards,
oh well.
right? And so if you think about if you get to the point where you've got multiple apps on your phone using AI and it's all going to the cloud, and let's say you've got 2 billion users across Android and iPhone, and multiple apps are using models. Well, so now it's like, even though NVIDIA has sold a 500,000 H100s, how many more do you need to handle 2 billion users?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I think we're kind of right at the beginning of this problem really becoming big and out of control, and if it's not already. So, well, Peter, this is good topic. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of backdrop and helping us understand a little bit the scale and scope of how bad this could be and the benefits of being pragmatic and making smaller models. So Let us know if you have any questions. We'd be happy to hit up any topics that you guys are interested in. Just leave us notes in the comments of the YouTube videos, and we will try to accommodate. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Peter. We'll see you guys next time.